Hello everyone, this is Leo from the Monkeys Making This Place channel. Today I'm going to be doing a deck profile of Keter Sanctuary Dragontree. You might be wondering why we're doing Keter Sanctuary. Personally, I kind of like it. I think it's pretty cool. You get to draw a lot of cards because of the grade 1, just letting you draw a card whenever you call something in front of it, so you get to refill your hand. We're also sort of doing a anime-esque battle, where we'll be pitting Keter Sanctuary Dragontree versus Alden, which is, I think, the fight that happened, if I remember correctly, I think it was episode 12 of the latest season. So we're just going to do that because it's, it's kind of cool. But let's get into it. For the ride deck, you have to play the Griphogila, obviously. Lets you change the rules of the deck to be able to play 3 Calamity cards and then the OT outside of the deck. You do this because the Dragontree deck allows you to just activate this. It requires a lot of setup, but it does let you activate it, which is pretty cool. Obviously, we play Keter Sanctuary because we are playing the Keter Sanctuary, and being able to get 6 draft checks in a turn is pretty cool. Then moving on to the main deck, there's going to be 3 sections here, which is going to be the Dragontree staples, which you're probably going to see in almost every Dragontree deck. Not really going to change. And then the stuff that's a little bit more generic, that is what we're playing specifically from Keter Sanctuary, and then obviously the triggers. So we're going to do both of these at the same time because they're kind of the same card with only slight differences. So both the grade 10 and the grade 11 Dragontree say that when they attack, you turn a Calamity card from your right deck and remove it from the game. That is these 3 cards, which we saw earlier. You will remove them from the right deck, and then if you don't remove a card, you can activate a face-up trigger. I don't actually, if I remember correctly, it does not have to be face-up for either of them. No, the grade 10 can only activate the over trigger, but the grade 11 can activate any trigger, regardless of if it's the over trigger or not. We'll talk about how it is, but the grade 10 gains power for each Dragontree marker you have on board. So if you have 5, it'll gain plus 25, so it'll be a 38k. And then if you have at least 3, he gains a crit. So that's enough for the grade 10. Let's talk about the grade 11. The grade 11 gains its 10k in a crit just during your turn. And then if you have, if the number of Hydreigon and Dragontree markers on your rear is 10 or more, he gains 10k. That ability is active during either player's turn. So you might be wondering what a Hydreigon is. The grade 11 and the grade 10 are both Hydreigons, so if you have either of them on the board, they would count. Your Vanguard doesn't count though, so you have to keep that in mind. The Vanguard does not count towards your overall 10 count. He also gives you a token, which is this Griphogila. It's a weird name. This token has 2 abilities. You'll get it whenever you ride the grade 11 by placing it. Which is weird wording. It should just be when it's placed on Van, but it's Bushiroad. They probably have a reason for it. It has 2 abilities. The first one says at the beginning of your main phase, you may take a trigger unit from your deck, put it into your right deck face up, and then you get to call a unit with Hydreigon from your drop to rear. That's to be able to keep doing the effect to activate a trigger from your right deck. Oh, another thing I missed mentioning is that when that ability activates, where it activates a trigger, it also restands any units on a Dragontree marker. That is for both the grade 10 and the grade 11, so just keep that in mind. So that's the first ability. The second ability is you can discard a card with Griphogila, which is either one of these. Both the grade 10 and the grade 11 have Griphogila in their card name, so you can discard either one of those. You draw a card, then you get to put a Dragontree marker on a rearguard circle. This one, however, does not specify a rearguard circle without a Dragontree marker. So you're able to stack them on a certain Dragontree marker, which helps you get to your 10 count a lot faster. So you discard a card with Griphogila, draw a card, place a Dragontree marker, and then you can put the top card of your deck into your damage zone face down, and then you get to remove a Calamity card from your right deck out of the game. And that's how you activate their second abilities, by getting rid of all of these. So on the first ride, you're going to get rid of 1. Then on this, you're going to ride the grade 11, use this to get rid of a second one. And then you're going to attack with it to get rid of the third one. And then the turn after that, you'd be able to activate the trigger effect, which gets the ability out 2 turns earlier, which is pretty good. So that's all for that. Let's move on to some of the other staples. We are playing a full set of the grade 2 and the grade 1 Dragontree units for Keter Sanctuary. Both of them make a Dragontree marker when they're placed on rear. The grade 1 does it for a single counterblast. The grade 2 does it for a counterblast and a soul blast. The difference being that the grade 2 can search you Mask, which can search for Dragontree units as well, so it can get you Anything from the grade 2, the grade 1, the grade 10, the grade 11, any of those units can get added to your hand, as well as being searchable. So it's just good to play a couple since you're going to be able to get them out earlier. And then the grade 1, whenever a unit is called in front of it, you can counterblast one to draw a card. So that's pretty good. You're probably going to see these. This is going to be standard in almost every Dragontree deck. So the only thing that's probably going to change is obviously these are going to be different nations, regardless of, you know, whatever nation they're going to be playing. But you're going to see these in pretty much every list. And then the last card that's going to be in the generic pile is the Blitz Order. This Blitz Order is the only other way you have of being able to stack Dragontree markers on top of each other. Because when you place the grade 10 for the first time off of your starter's ability, he allows you to put 2 Dragontree markers on any rearguards, and that doesn't specify rearguards without Dragontree markers. So you're hoping to find these as quickly as possible. You want to have at least 2 in your starting hand, so you can place 2 Dragontree markers, and then when you use your starter's ability to ride the grade 10, you can put the 2 Dragontree markers on top of the ones you've already placed, getting you 4 Dragontree markers right off the bat, and having 3 open rear or 3 rearguards without them, which you can use your grade 2 and your grade 1 to fill. Right, so let's move on from this to the Keter stuff. So for the Keter stuff, we're obviously playing 4 PGs. Just playing 4 of the regular PGs because since we do play a Blitz Order in this deck, you don't really want it to clash. You probably won't have to use the Blitz PG before you have to use the grade 0 PG. But I'd rather just not have it, and you can just play these 4. Sometimes you do just have to call them as units so you can get the power on board, but I'd much prefer just playing the 4 vanilla Keter PGs. And then we have 2 copies of Codons? I don't know. These guys always have weird names. I'm always trying to read them. This guy just lets you get more cards, just lets you draw more cards. When he's placed on rear, if you have 3 or more Dragontree markers, you can counterblast 1, draw a card. Just card draw, essentially. You're not gonna use your CB for a lot in this deck, so it's just another way to use it to just draw you some cards. You'll be able to get the 3 dragon markers pretty easily. Then we're playing 4 copies of Cutoff Angel as extra shield because getting to the over trigger turn is gonna take a while, and you need to live until then. He's just, if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 2 or greater, it gets plus 10k shield or 5k shield, so it's just a 10k. That's pretty much it. And since it's only your opponent having to be a grade 2, you get these off pretty quickly. Pretty early, you get the extra shield, so it's pretty good. Then on to the last of the generic cards, or not the generic cards, the Keter cards, is Inhumane Dragon. This card is your boss unit for your rearguard. I mean, he cannot be ridden, he cannot be normal called to a rearguard without a Dragontree marker. Then he gains power from 2 different abilities. The first one gives him plus 2k for each Dragontree marker on your rearguard, and the second one is that he gains plus 2k for each of your rearguards. So if you have a full board, he gets plus 10k, and then if you have 5 Dragontree markers, he gets another 10k, and he is a base 15, so that'll be a 35k swing, obviously not counting how many Dragontree markers are under him, you know, if the booster, anything like that. So this guy is your powerhouse. He's going to get you so much power, or so much pressure. You can get these out early, but I would probably just recommend calling out, well, I'll get to that at the end. But yes, he can get huge, right? Because you can stack Dragontree markers on one rearguard circle, and then you call him on that rearguard circle, and then you can give it a booster. The booster's plus 13k, so it's just 28k. And then at full board, it goes from 28 to 38 to 48, and then let's say there's 2 Dragontree markers under him. That's 58, which is a very easily plausible thing with this deck. Huge power as far as all the cycle of these that came out in set 13. I think that the Keter Sanctuary one is the best, because if I remember correctly, the others are a little harder to pull off than this one is. So let me show you the others. So for the Dark States one, he has the same first 2, and then the last ability says that he gains plus 2k for every 3 cards in your soul, which this deck doesn't make a lot of soul unless your goal is to do that. So the Dark States isn't going to get a lot of power or as much as Keter Sanctuary is. Then the Stoicheia one is for every 5 cards in your drop. Again, sure, you can kind of get that going, but it's so much easier to just call rearguards than it is to have to put, what is it, to equal out, you'd have to have 25 cards in your drop, so that's half your deck. Very unlikely that this deck is going to get to that point, but, you know. And then for Brand Gate, it's for each of your order zones set orders. So this one, I think, is probably a second better, or at least as good. because, I mean, you get the token that the grade 11 produces is a set order, so it would count. So you get plus 2k just off of that. How good that is really up for debate. So Bryant Gate also wasn't great. And then Dragon Empire is plus 2k for each of your opponents' open rear. Again, you have to commit cards to retiring units, and with how you saw, there's only about like 10 slots available in this deck because you pretty much have to play all the other cards I mentioned for Dragontree. So how likely are you to find the retiring cards you need for something like this? So personally, I think that the Keter Sanctuary deck got like the best of this cycle. Then let's move on to the triggers so that we can finish off. We have 4 fronts because we need the extra shield. And obviously it's the effect fronts because you really do need them. You need that extra shield. Then we play the 7 crit because you want to be able to put pressure. Your Vanguard already gains the crit, so having to tell your opponent to pretty much PG your Vanguard every turn, because if they don't, they could get hit for 3 damage or 4 damage is very scary. And then for the heal triggers, we play 2 vanilla heals, and then we play 2 of the opponent's grade being higher than yours heals. And you might be thinking, why are you playing these? Your Vanguard is grade 11. These are in case you get them early on. You can just have a 20k shield, which means that your opponent would have to overtrigger to get through it. You are going to be guarding very early on. You pretty much don't want to have any damage until you're going into your grade 10 turn, because that's when you are making Dragontree markers. So early on, you're pretty much guarding every attack because you don't have to pitch to right up, so you get to keep a lot of your cards. So having to guard a lot isn't going to be as detrimental. But let's get into some of the ways I've learned to play this deck to, keep myself alive. So obviously, during your grade 10 turn, you don't want to call out Inhumane Dragon. You want to save him for the following turn. You want to save these for as long as you can. You want to keep at least 2 if you can. Obviously, you can call them to rearguard if you feel safe if you're playing against something that doesn't retire. But if you are playing against something that retires, you kind of want to keep these guys safe because they are your lifeblood. You pretty much just want to use the grade 2 Dragontree unit as your main attacker because, hey, if they kill it, you can bring it back with the order without having to worry about it too much. You can even call out like the grade 10 to rear if you off of the order. Anything would be better than calling the Inhumane Dragons. Then once you ride into the grade 11, that's where you start swapping your grade 2s for the Inhumane Dragons. Something like this could be a board you'd see, so you'd have a column that is going to attack first, and then you swing with Vanguard, and then you would swing with Inhumane, because he would have so much power. If you get any triggers, you can put it over here and have an insane amount of pressure. But yeah, this is a very fun deck. I really enjoy playing it. Let me do some cool showcasing. Did I lose a unit? What the hell? There we go. It's really fun. You have to kind of know what you're playing against. You have to know what attacks to guard and things like that. This deck isn't incredibly good. I'm going to be very honest with you. It is a meme deck at best, but it's super fun if you get to pull off that OT. Oh, that feeling, the what is the word? The serotonin that gets released into your brain when you go, okay, cool, I'm going to get to activate the overtrigger this turn and get 5 attacks, which 3 of them will have drive checks, and they're going to swing for so much power. Oh, it's palpable. It's incredible. Obviously, you can build this in any nation. Personally, I do actually really like the Keter Sanctuary list, even if we weren't doing it for the anime battle, right? This deck is still really fun. It's still really cool. Hopefully it gets more support, but I don't know how likely that is. They might not support it anymore, but who knows? I mean, we've seen that Welsh's coming back. We've seen that Zorga's coming back. Greedon got support in the first set. I do believe an Alden card just got revealed, either earlier this day when the video gets recorded or yesterday. That is also very good. So that card is coming out, I believe, in set 1, which is it's a very good card. I think it gives the deck even more attacks than you had previously, so that's really good. But nonetheless, this deck is very fun. I would recommend you play it, or at least pick up the cards. A lot of them are cheap. Probably going to be looking at the most expensive cards being these 2 over here. These guys aren't nearly as expensive, but usually these guys are the pricey ones. depending on what nation you're playing, you're going to be looking at some pretty hefty prices. Mostly for the grade 2, I think. The grade 2 for Dark States and for Star Chaos is pretty expensive. So you're probably going to be looking at a hefty price for this guy. But everything else is pretty cheap. I mean, this deck is overall pretty budget friendly. Obviously, the effect triggers are maybe a little expensive. And I have 2 of the FFRs. But nonetheless, it is a pretty cheap deck. I think pretty much every player should try playing this deck at least once, because the serotonin of playing this deck is incredible. So yeah, I would recommend everyone gives it a try at least once. I've had a lot of fun. I've played the grade 10 deck when it was available, but we never posted it on the channel just because we had the grade 11 coming out soon and we wanted to save it for this and have the battle against Alden, which Cat will be doing probably later this week, probably on Wednesday as well. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this slightly longer deck profile. Maybe I went a little bit more in depth than I normally do. Oh, one recommendation in case you don't want to play that grade 1. Let me just pull him out so you guys can remember. This guy. You can always play Amputate's Scatter Angel as extra shield. It does need to intercept, and you have to have 3 or more cards in your damage zone. But it is a 15k intercept. So maybe you could use it earlier on your grade 10 turn to have some extra shield. Personally, I haven't tested it with it. It is a card that's option, but it is a 9k, so it is a little weaker. You know, kind of changes your numbers a little bit, but it is an option in case you don't want to just get the extra draw. This doesn't have any cost. Obviously, it just requires you to be at 3 damage, and it has to intercept. You can't call it from hand. If it was from hand as well, I would probably play it, but it isn't, so that's unfortunate. But with that, I will leave you guys. Hope you enjoyed the deck profile, and I'll catch you guys next time.